All right. Before we get started into the nitty gritty and our first lesson of Wedding Pros SEO, I wanted to give you a little bit of background information about me, about who I am, my experience in SEO, and just a little bit of personal information. Honestly, you probably don't care, but I think it's fun to see a little bit of behind the camera, to see where I'm coming from, and to honestly see why you should trust me. So that's me right there. That is a picture that Katie and I had done when we were in Charleston visiting for a vacation. Katie had wanted to hire a professional photographer to do a couple shoot of us, which was super weird for us to kind of be in front of the camera. I absolutely hate having pictures taken of me. I'm very comfortable behind the camera, but when it comes to being in front of it, I absolutely dread it. So that was a couple years ago. I still look pretty much the same. The beard's trimmed down because Katie doesn't like it. A couple more gray hairs, but that's me. On the weekends, Katie and I, when we're not shooting weddings, we love to watch college football, go on hikes. We drink a lot of coffee. I love to read. So that's me. As far as professionally goes, I am the other half, the second half of Katie Jane's photography. You might notice that my name isn't really in the business name anywhere, which isn't something that we talk about much because it's a bitter point. Katie likes to say, "Hey, your last name's in there," and that's just an excuse. So Katie Jane's photography kind of started out as just a little side gig hobby about 6 years ago. Katie had a family friend ask her to shoot her wedding, and Katie, having some experience with photography from high school and college, was like, sure, I'll give it a shot. I think we charged the lady like $300 or $400, and we had no idea what we were doing whatsoever. But nothing caught on fire. She loved her pictures, and Katie and I, even though we were so stressed out at the end of the day, actually really enjoyed it. And that's kind of how we got into wedding photography and the wedding industry in general. And I think that was about 6 years ago, and who knows how many pictures we've taken since then, but it's been such an incredible journey. When I'm not shooting weddings on the weekends, I work at an internet marketing company here in South Carolina. I am a full-time SEO specialist. That's something I've been doing been with the company for 4 years. I started as a content creator, which essentially just means I was writing web page content, I was writing blog post content. We have several clients, but most of them fall into the life insurance or financial blogger niche, which is exactly as exciting as it sounds, which is to say not at all. And I did that for about 2 years, which I really enjoyed. I loved the experience that I got, but I got to the point, if I had to write the words life insurance policy or premium or deductible one more time, I think I was going to throw my computer out a window. So my boss was kind enough to let me change roles a little bit to something that I honestly had no experience with. I started doing data analyst, which means I was looking at all of our numbers, all the website's numbers of our visits and our bounce rates and stuff like that. Look at the real granular data, which was an incredible role. Showed me so much about to look at more than just the numbers. Look at the whole picture. See how these numbers relate. Look at trends. Just not to just take the numbers for face value and what they are, but to actually really look and see why are these numbers the way they are, and to take those numbers and just tell the story with it. And that was absolutely incredible. That's where I got all my knowledge about a lot of the tools that you're going to see in this course. I learned in that role, and it was incredible. From then, I transferred to the role that I'm at now, which is a tech SEO specialist, which is honestly just kind of a fancy way of saying that I actually do the things now. Before I had this kind of vague idea of what my coworkers did when they were optimizing a blog post or when they were optimizing a web page, but I would never have been able to actually go onto the page itself and do it. Now that's what I spend a vast majority of my time doing, is actually getting my hands dirty with the blog post, optimizing them from top to bottom, making sure that not only will Google love it, but the user is going to be able to get to it, understand what it's saying, and navigate. So I've been doing that for almost a year. and I really do love it. SEO is such a unique beast. It's the target's always changing. Google is constantly changing and tweaking their algorithm to make it better for all the users, but that definitely changes how we have to create content, how we have to design it. But that's one of the joys, is you'll never just be able to kind of sit back and say, okay, I'm done with SEO. I can kind of just let my website coast and just it's going to keep going up, which for some people is exhausting, but for me, I love it. The other reason that I love SEO and that a lot of people love SEO is because it's a very unique blend of creativity and being analytical. A large part of it is kind of pleasing Google, which is honestly very technical aspects, making sure that you have X, Y, and Z, making sure it's in this order, things that can be very monotonous. But on the other side of that, there's this creativity of how do I give my user, my client, what they're looking for? Yes, I have to have these things, but how can I make that better? How can I present this information in a unique way that they've never seen before and that they're going to love? And if you make your user, your target client happy, Google will reward you. So I think it's just such an incredible way to be able to use those hard numbers, but find a way to do it creatively where you're standing out from the crowd. And that is just, to me, one of the most amazing things about SEO and why it continues to just be such a thrill ride for me every day. And with that being said, let's get to it. If you have any SEO experience or you feel like you're not a complete beginner, you can probably go ahead and skip the next 6 or 7 slides. I decided that it'd probably be best to go ahead and give a really basic foundation for SEO. Most people have heard the term SEO. Some might not even know what it stands for or have any idea what it is. So I figured before we jump into actual practical steps and what you can do for your site, I should probably go ahead and give a basic idea. Otherwise, if we keep going, there's going to be a lot of people that are lost. They don't understand the terms or have no idea what I'm talking about. If you feel like you already know all this, please feel free to go ahead, skip ahead, I don't know, maybe 10 minutes. Just don't go too far. You don't want to miss anything. So let's get started with what is SEO. As I've said, you've probably heard it if you've been on the internet, if you've read any marketing blogs, if you've been on, honestly, any kind of professional website. It's gained a lot of popularity in the past couple years just because of how valuable it can be. The problem is a lot of small businesses either A, don't know what it is, or B, don't think they have the knowledge or time to do it. First of all, I want to completely bust those myths, but we'll cover that a little bit later on. So let's get started with what is SEO. SEO is search engine optimization, which is a fancy way of saying it's getting free, organic, editorial, or natural search results from search engines. And that definition is from Search Engine Land, which is kind of the textbook dictionary definition of SEO. And that does a great job of saying what it is. Search engine optimization is making your content or website the best possible it can be to get free and organic traffic. That means you're not paying for ads, you're not paying for Facebook advertisements. All it is someone goes to Google, types something in or asks a question, and you pop up and they come to you. That is organic traffic. Search engine optimization is giving you the best possible chance to be the one they click on. Now, here's my definition of SEO. People ask me a lot, what is SEO? And I've went through a lot of different answers and fumbled my way through a lot of explanations. So here's what I've came up with. It's the mixture of pleasing the Google gods and giving your customers the answer they want. If you make your users happy, Google will follow, hopefully. In my head, SEO comes down to 2 things. Make your clients happy, make Google happy. That's it. We like to complicate it and add a bunch of terms and everything, but that is what it boils down to. Is if you do the things that Google likes and you give your customer the answer they want, that's good SEO. And yes, that oversimplifies it, and that boils it down to just a little too much. But in the end, that's what we're trying to do, is we're trying to provide the best content and the best answers. That's it. So I hopefully that gives you a decent idea of what SEO. I know. I mean, you're not really gonna be able to understand it from 2 paragraphs, but I think for the purposes of this course, that should give you a great foundation to build off of. All right, let's talk a little bit about SEO and why it matters. I know for some people this might seem extremely obvious, but I think there's a large crowd of people out there, especially in the wedding industry world, that don't necessarily see the value in investing in SEO. So I want to kind of give a little bit of understanding to, a little bit of knowledge to why I think you should invest at least a little bit of time into SEO. Obviously, as of course you know, the world runs through Google at this point of our lives. Anyone, if they have a question, if they're looking for a store, if they're looking to buy something, if they want to do some more research, they're going to go to Google. I mean, it's the default browser to just about every phone now. So why does it matter for us in the wedding industry to focus on our SEO? When a bride gets engaged, they're going to spend the first couple of days telling everyone, being excited, sharing pictures. But then after that is when the wedding planning starts. And unless they know someone, unless they have a cousin or a friend who's a cake baker, or maybe their aunt's a wedding planner, they're going to go to Google. That's the short of it. This bride is going to go to Google. They're going to type in best wedding planner in whatever city they're in. They're going to type in wedding photographers near me. They're going to Google wedding venues in Arizona, whatever it is. But they're going to Google. It's where every bride starts her search, and probably ends her search is with Google. Meaning if you don't have a presence on Google, you are losing clients. Period. That's it. If you're not investing at least a little bit of time, you're leaving money on the table. So what this study did was to look at the click-through rate by position. On the bottom axis there, which I think is the x-axis, I don't really remember, you have the position of the search result. On the y-axis, I think, is the click-through rate. So with any result that was in the first position, position 1, they had an extremely high click-through rate. You're talking like 32% there, which in the SEO world is insanely high. After you get out of position 1, you go just down to position 2, huge drop off. It goes all the way to 15%. You're talking a half as many clicks just by one position. Okay, now what I want you to really notice there though is in that 5th and 6th position. You're talking less than 10%, which still, don't get me wrong, super great click-through rate. But look at the difference between just position 5 and position 1. 5 positions, but you're talking what, a 30% difference in click-through rate? That's insane. And I think that right there is why so many of us should invest more time into SEO, because the number of clients you could get when you're in position 5 versus when you're in position 1 is insane. It's incredible. Just think, even if you were to convert a couple of those, what would your profits look like? So now that we understand a little bit about why SEO matters and the value that it can bring, I wanted to spend some time answering some of the questions that I get a lot and some of the unguided beliefs that I hear a lot. In the past 4 or 5 years, I've had a lot of people ask me some questions about their websites or a little bit of their concerns about getting into SEO. So I just wanted to go ahead and address some of those, answer them now, get them out of the way so we can move on. The first question that I get a lot is, how much time does it take to do SEO? one of the main reasons that so many people either A, don't get into SEO for their websites, or B, they pay someone to do it, is because they think they don't have time. And I know what you're saying, Mitchell. I'm already doing 45,000 other things. I'm having to handle our billing. I'm having to manage my clients. I'm having to actually do whatever my job is. If it's a florist, I'm having to make those floral arrangements or bake the cakes. I get it. We're all super busy. I completely understand that. But I also want you to realize that SEO, it isn't an extremely time-consuming process. Yes, it can be. But it also can be something that you can find ways to do in your in-between times. So my answer to this question of how much time does SEO take is you get out what you put into it. Mostly. If you put in an hour a week, you're going to see some results. Absolutely. But you're going to see about an hour a week results. Which still, that's great. But if you want better results, you're probably going to have to put in more time. Now, all that being said, there are some quick wins to SEO. There might be some big errors on your site that if you fix those little errors, you could see huge results. Or maybe you put in 200 hours, but it's all really small things that they'll make a difference, but maybe it's not 200 hours worth of difference. And so that's what you have to understand, is it doesn't have to be something that you're putting 40 hours into every week. But the more time you put into it, the more you're probably going to get out of it, just like anything else. The next question I get a lot is, how much money does SEO cost? It all comes down to that moolah. If you're anything like us, you're a small business and you don't have a ton of money just to throw around. And I completely get that. And that's why my answer is always the same to just about anyone I talk to. Never break your bank on SEO. Now, I'm not going to say that SEO is completely free. Most of the times it is. Most of the times you don't have to spend a dime to improve your SEO, and that's incredible. The one caveat there is you could end up spending money to maybe make your time more efficient. There are some tools out there that can really maximize your time and efforts. They aren't completely necessary. You can go your whole career and never spend a dime on SEO. Now, you might, on the flip side of that, be spending more time. That's where you have to decide how much is your time worth. But all that being said, don't think that you're going to have to spend $300, $400 a month to improve your SEO. You just might have to spend 15 minutes here and there, and that's it. The next question, where do I start? Oh, the infamous where do I start? This is a question that I get a lot, and I always struggle to answer. My wife is one of those people that if you put her in front of a project, she has no idea where to go. She sees the whole picture and the whole mountain to climb and doesn't know where to get started. A lot of you probably share those same feelings. You see your whole website and all your blog posts and everything, and you think, where in the world do I get started taming this beast? There's so much to do. I have to do X, Y, and Z, which is true. There's a ton that goes into SEO, and I'm not going to lie to you and say, it's something easy and you can just knock it out in one day. But you do have to start somewhere, and I tell everyone, start with what's in front of you. If you're working on a blog post right now, start by optimizing it. If you pull up your website and there's your homepage, start there. You have to get started somewhere, and you might as well start with what's in front of you. If you never get started, you're never going to finish, and nothing's going to improve. So if maybe you're not working on a blog post right now, put yourself in the shoes of your customer. Where are they going to start? Okay, if they're going to start on your homepage, start there. If you think they're going to start on your services page, start by optimizing that. Start with what's in front of you. And that also is probably going to show you what's most important to you. All right, those are some of the biggest questions I get. Now let's talk a little bit about what I want you to get out of this course. Before I started it, I had 3 objectives that I really wanted to accomplish with the course. Something super simple. I didn't want everyone to be leaving here thinking that they're going to be SEO experts in the wedding industry. But there are three things that I want you to get out of it. The first thing being a working knowledge. I don't think that you have to be an expert in SEO to be able to just to follow good SEO practices for your website and your blog posts. I just want to give you a working knowledge so that you can go into it and you can tackle your own SEO problems. You don't have to hire someone. You don't have to pay someone to do it. You can do it yourself. The next thing is I want you to have a game plan. By the end of this course, I want you to have an SEO game plan. What I mean is I want you to have like 10 actionable steps that you can close out this course and you can go do them. You know, all this knowledge is great, but if you don't do anything with it, you've wasted your time. So I want you to have a game plan to go out there and do all the things, which leads into the last one of confidence. I want you to be confident that you can do it. You know, it's scary when you're facing your website and you're looking at all the things that you need to do and you don't know if you know how to do all these things, but when you finish this course, I want you to feel like you have the knowledge and the confidence to actually go do those things and to tackle it and to do it. Before we go any further, we're actually going to go over to Google and we're going to do a Google search. I know what you're saying, that you've done this a million times and you know what a Google search looks at, but I actually want to take some time to break down a Google search and to create a little bit of language to show you exactly what you're looking at when you see Google. So we're going to type in something like how to pick a wedding. Let's go with a wedding venue. Okay, so you pull up the Google search and you're going to notice with a lot of searches, you're going to notice this knowledge box right here at the top, this featured snippet. The correct language is the featured snippet, and that is the golden position. It's also called position 0. It's the first thing you see, and this is every SEO's dream, is to get into this box. Obviously, if it's the first thing you see, you're more than likely to click it. So for this one, you'll see this comes from brides.com, and the title of the article is How to Choose the Perfect Wedding Venue. You see the nice list and a picture there. The featured snippet loves lists. There's been a lot of study that's shown that lists tend to get into that box more often than anything else, which is something to keep in mind when you're creating your content. Not that you should kind of go out of your way to make something unnaturally a list, but if there is any way that you can create a nice little list for your users, it bumps up your chance. Now, with that being said, in the wedding industry, these feature snippets honestly don't come up a lot. It's just by nature of the content that we create and the stuff that we're pushing out. It isn't a good fit for the featured snippet. We're not creating a lot of lists like this, but if it ever does come up, you want to be in it, and creating content like this that fits in there nicely, it's going to give you a little bit of a boost. So now that's the feature snippet. This is the golden child where we all want to be. And oh my goodness, it's highlighting. Okay, so now let's scroll down. And for this one, immediately following the feature snippet is the people also ask. You've probably used this in the past after you Googled a question. You're like, oh yeah, I do like that. I also wondered about these things. This is a great way for you to actually get content ideas. That's not really the purpose of the lesson or anything, but if you're trying to think of something else to blog about or to put on your website, this frequently asked questions section of Google is a great place to get it. But that is a different lesson for a different time. So anyways, let's get down to the actual Google results of our question of how to pick a wedding venue. So with most Google searches, there's actually going to be advertisements at the top, and this isn't one of them. You know what an ad looks like. But when we're talking about your ranking in Google, we don't count ads. The rankings for us start with the first organic result. And for this one, it is apracticalwedding.com. How to choose a wedding venue. No, really, a practical. and dot, dot, dot. So let's dissect this result a little bit, this one right here. So right here you have your meta title. All this is the title of the post that you're sending them to. If it's a page, it's the title of the page. Now, if you're using WordPress or Squarespace, it is super simple to change this meta title here, this blue text, and it's extremely important to do so. We'll discuss that a little bit in the future in a different lesson, but just be aware that this meta title is extremely important to your user. Below the meta title, you have just the URL, just the basic URL that you're going to. All it is it's showing the user that, hey, this site is exactly where you think you're going. Now below that is the meta description, this little bit right here, also super important. Once again with WordPress and Squarespace, very easy to change. Now if you don't change it, Google is going to kind of automatically grab a section in your post or on the page that it thinks is the most relevant. Now in some situations that's awesome because it saves you time, you don't have to worry about it. But we always recommend that you go in there and you change this meta description yourself. This should be something that you kind of craft yourself. And there's a lot of things that you can be looking for, and there's honestly an art to doing it. But if nothing else, you should go in there and you should change it yourself. You don't want to leave something this important up to Google because there's a chance it grabs the completely wrong thing. Now, one thing you're going to notice about Google is it can give you a lot of different things. Just by looking at this one, look how much longer this is than this meta description is than the one above it. That is something that we don't know the rhyme or reason behind some being longer than others. Our rule of thumb is to kind of make it where if Google does cut it off, it still makes sense. But to always plan for it to be about this length right here. I don't remember. I think it's 170 pixels is how it measures it. It doesn't do it by characters. It does it by pixels. So that's what you're always aiming for. If you're using a plugin like Yoast, which we'll discuss a little later, it will show you where it will be cut off at. And down here at the bottom, you'll see stuff like related searches. And this just gives you, in most cases, this is just kind of like popular brands or popular websites for the related topic. Now we're going to do a different search just to get a different result, and we're going to change venue. We're going to change wedding venue to wedding dress, and just to show you how it can be a little different. We're going to change wedding dress to wedding flowers and look to see just how different our results are. You'll see the featured snippet just like in the last one. Once again, with the list, follow these tips to help you get started on how to choose your wedding flowers. Some great tips there if you're looking to pick out your wedding flowers. But one thing you should notice is over here on the right. This is an ad. It's something new that Google's trying with this sponsored shopping ads, which is extremely powerful if it's used correctly. If you are selling any kind of products, if you're in the florist business, if you're selling something like cake toppers or something like that, if you have that presence on Etsy, this could be huge potential for you. For a lot of us, as far as photographers and planners, not extremely helpful, but still something to be aware of when you're doing your SEO and you're maybe even looking at doing some ads.